2007. Just get home from college, looking for a summer job. Parents live in northern Kentucky. Not a whole lot in terms of a job market. I look around for a bit when my dad tells me he's heard about an opening. It's at a local outlet mall, practically abandoned by that point, but the building is huge. Anyways, they need a security guard, which seems like the easiest job in the world to me, so I say fuck it and apply. I go to the mall the next day and take the tour of the building with the manager. I don't want to use real names, so we'll call him Frank. Frank is a mid-60s real estate guy. He acts like owning a mall is a burden. Shows me around. There's not much here. A jewelry store, some sort of art gallery, a blue jeans outlet, and a pizza place in the food court. I ask him why he wants a security guard when the mall is only open a few hours a day. Frank tells me there have been some incidents of kids or something. I should probably ask more, but I don't. Frank seems satisfied, offers me a job. Tells me that I probably won't need a gun, but he offers to buy me a security uniform. He never does buy me the uniform. I show up to work the next day. There's no Frank. I have no method of clocking in or out, so I was told to log my hours on an Excel sheet, which I would turn into the mall office every week. Problem is, there is no office, not a physical one. I spend most of my days talking to the various employees at the stores. Generally, every day is slow. I bet maybe 10 customers a day is the average. Anyway, the person I chat with the most is Seth, the guy who owns the pizza place. He claims it's part of a chain, but he's never heard from corporate, so he just does his own thing. We are usually so bored out of our minds we just shoot the shit. After a couple of weeks, he starts letting me in on some fun shit. We drink on the job, smoke occasionally, etc. I remember one time this lady working at the jeans store asked me what I did all day. I just sort of laughed and she said, yeah, me too. Frank stops by only occasionally and he never speaks to me. I asked the jean lady, I don't recall her name, why Frank even wanted to hire someone for my job. She tells me a few months ago there was some bullshit in the parking lot, kids fighting, whatever, and it was a safety concern. I just sort of chill out every day. Eventually it gets to the point where I have 2 weeks before I go back to college. Seth is actually having girl troubles and asks me if I'd stay late with him and watch TV. He didn't want to go home. So we spend a good portion of the night watching this little ass TV in the pizza place. I get drunk and we head out maybe about 10 o'clock. Seth drives me home, and my drunk ass gets home, and I realize I left my keys at work. Well, shit. At this point, I don't want to wake my parents up, and work is only a 15-minute walk. So I say fuck it, and walk back to the mall. I get to the mall, and my retarded self realizes the door will be locked. I have a cell. I decide to call Seth. No answer. I'm desperate, so I pull on the door, and to my surprise, it's unlocked. Maybe I forgot to lock it. I head in and start walking to the pizza place to grab my keys. I get the keys when all of a sudden I hear a crash. It scares the hell out of me, so I get the fuck out of there. Next day I'm talking to Lucy. She's the lady at the counter at the jewelry store. I tell her what happened and she's unsure of what could have made the noise. But as we close up, I realize what it was. The gates that close over the store doors, like when the mall closes, that's what made the noise. But why would one of the stores be closing at 11 o'clock or whatever time it was? Just to be safe, I call Frank. Voicemail. But on my drive home, he calls me back. I explain the situation to him, and he kind of chuckles and thanks me for doing such a good job. I tell him I'm going back to college in a week, or whatever, and that it might be worth checking out. Faulty equipment, maybe? He asks me if maybe someone is sneaking in after hours to steal money from the registers, like an employee. I say it's definitely possible. So he asks me to stay late the next day and check it out. Next day, I'm talking to Seth about the whole thing. He tells me I should say fuck it and go home for the night. Yeah, maybe. I call Frank towards closing time and tell him he should maybe hire an actual security consultant or some crap. After all, he does own an entire mall. But Frank, being the cheap bastard he is, says he can't afford to do that. He offers me $300 to stay late until my tenure is up in a few days. I can't turn down that much beer money, so I say fuck it. That night, I stay late. Keep the lights on, watch TV, clean a little when I get bored. It's not so bad. The next night, I do the same thing. Around 10:30, I hear the door go off, like the automatic door or whatever, so I freak the fuck out. Run over to the entrance. Nothing. Maybe I was just hearing things. But then, crash! I hear it again. The lights go out. At this point, I am freaking the fuck out. I don't carry a flashlight on me. So I go to the main light control and turn the flip, but the lights don't turn on. I decide to call the police. So I do. But my phone is telling me there's no reception. Perks of living in the middle of nowhere. So I decide to use the payphone on the opposite side of the mall. Yes, this mall is so old, we still had payphones in '07. I have no means to defend myself. My best guess is that Seth is coming in, or someone I know. It's a small community. I make it a little past the food court when I hear music. Best way to describe it is like a droning guitar. Like sort of noise metalish. That alone is enough to piss myself, but I faintly hear a gentleman speaking. So I yell out, "Mall security, come on out!" And there's silence. Dead silence. Then, I hear some weird noises like guns or explosions, but distorted. Then nothing. I run towards the payphone at this point, convinced I'll have to defend myself. But when I arrive, the lights come back on. I can't find anyone. And so I call the police. The police arrive and look things over, but there's not much they can do, and our security cameras haven't worked in years. One cop says I should call Frank, but then another cop says he knows Frank personally. He'll tell them I called the cops. Okay. So the next day I decide to open up all the stores not in use. I find a lot of weird shit. There's an old Warner Brothers store left intact that was completely shuttered. This weird animatronic gremlin from the movie Gremlins is just staring at me, as are Daffy Duck and Speedy Gonzales. This freaks me the fuck out, so I shut that gate and continue. Eventually, I figure out where the weird noises were coming from. It's the arcade. All the machines are, surprisingly, still intact and plugged in. I recognize a lot of the games. Street Fighter, Area 51, those kind of games. But one intrigues me because it's just sitting there in the middle. It's a black cabinet, and there's just one large piece of red tape on the side. Just for shits and giggles, I try hitting one of the buttons. Nothing happens. But at this point, I am 100% convinced someone was in here last night playing these games and making lots of noise. I kind of want to tell someone at work, but I'm also kind of convinced it's one of them. Like, would it even be a big deal if they wanted to come to work and just play games? But then what explains the lights? Anyways, I decide to stay late again, but this time I do something kind of unethical and bring one of my dad's handguns. I don't tell anyone I have the gun, and I don't bring it inside the building until everyone else has left. I actually set up shop in the restroom, which is directly across from the arcade. I sit there reading and shit for a few hours. When on cue, the lights go off, the gun is ready, and to be honest, I'm afraid to use it. I'm sort of a wimp, I guess. I just keep telling myself it's some employee who knows about the arcade and wants to use it. Hell, maybe I'd join in, we'd have a laugh. Then I hear it. Crash! The gate has opened. I take a breath. The music starts. The noises starts. This is maybe 11:30 at night. I start to step out of the bathroom when I hear voices. Not from the games, but from directly outside. It's hard to tell, but it sounds kind of like a prayer. Not a chant, like a conversational prayer you'd say before dinner, like saying grace. That alone makes me want to stay put. Just let this shit ride out. Leave. Never come back. But my curiosity gets the best of me, and I step outside. Had I not been literally in a bathroom all night, I would have pissed and shit myself. It's actually mind-boggling to think about. A lot of people will read this and not believe me, but fuck it. There's, I think, maybe 6 guys, I assume they're guys, wearing baggy black hoodies, heavily body modded out, face tattoos, piercings and shit. No one I know. They have these weird plastic containers, like for candy, I guess, filled with this bizarre purple substance. Just sitting there, on the floor of the arcade. Purple slime buckets. To this day, I can't explain that shit. Anyways, they're all centered around this black arcade cabinet, and on the screen appears to be grainy footage of a face? This all happened very quickly, so I'll do my best to describe it, but if you could imagine, I don't know, Voldemort from Harry Potter, mixed with, like, Killer Croc from Batman. That's what this creepy-ass face looked like. Some uncanny valley type shit that scares the piss out of me. This arcade cabinet is what's blaring the weird drone music. None of them notice me at first, so I raise the gun and scream at the top of my lungs, "Mall security, what in the fuck are you doing there?" And I swear to fucking God, each one of them freezes in place. And this face on the screen looks right at me. Everyone seems really freaked out, myself included. There's maybe 3 or 4 seconds of just silence. You could hear a pin drop. I'm confident none of these guys work at the mall or know anyone who works at the mall, and I'm the guy with the gun. One of these hoodie guys speaks up. He sounds younger, maybe 18, 19. I should note I was 23 when this all happened. He tells me we're in a gaming club through the library. And I pull apart the story by carefully explaining that gaming clubs don't break into shopping malls at 11 o'clock at night. Everyone just sort of seems to be really pissed. And the screen on this cabinet starts flickering. I'm tempted to shoot the screen, just because it's so unnerving to look at. But I legitimately don't want to hurt anyone, so I don't shoot it. I tell the kid who spoke to me he needs to put the gate down. People need to come with me. I figured I'll take these guys to the payphone and hold them until the cops come. To be completely honest, this shit is above my pay grade. I'm repeating myself again when suddenly, boom! I feel like my head just exploded on the floor. I look at my hand and I see blood, lots of it. Standing above me is another person wearing, again, the big black hoodie. This one has a mask that sort of looks like a creepy mannequin. It's got the weird feminine hair and shit on the mask, and this dude, I assume it's a dude, this dude is carrying a baseball bat. I'm on the ground, bleeding profusely, and my gun is on the floor. Immediately, things start breaking down. This entire group of 6 guys in the arcade rushes at me. I roll over and get up and start running towards the entrance. Remember, at this point, I have to assume someone picked up my gun, and my head hurts really bad. As I run down the mall, the arcade game noises get quieter because, you know, I'm moving further away. But the weird droning guitar seems to be getting louder and louder and louder. Oh, sweet Jesus, fuck, I see the entrance. My plan currently is this: run outside, get in my car, drive as fast as I can towards town, where there should be some people and called the police. This is some seriously insane bullshit. I can see the door. I run faster when, son of a bitch, 2 more hoodie guys are waiting for me. I look behind me and don't see anyone, so I decide to just bum rush these guys by the door. We fight, but again, I'm not some Golden Gloves boxing champ. One of these guys says, "We need to get this guy to Warner's." Looking back, I assume he meant the Warner Brothers store in the mall. But there was nothing in it but creepy shit. There could have also been a guy named Warner or some crap. Anyway, I keep trying to wrestle my way out of this, because eventually the guys who got me by the arcade are gonna catch up, and my head wound is only going to get worse. One of the hoodie guys falls over. I get up, check my head. I'm basically covered in my own blood at this point, like a wrestler would be. I have no way of telling if it's serious or not. Out the door, I don't even check to see if they're following me. My dumbass, of course, parked all the way at the end of the parking lot. Employees are technically supposed to, as if anyone would care to check. But as I run my ass off towards my car, I hear a loud noise, and to my right, a giant black van approaches. One of these guys in the van is wearing a mask like the one I described earlier. His window is down, and as the van chases me down the parking lot, I can hear him screaming. I don't even think he was using words, just a weird, mocking call to let me know I was fucked. I wish I had my gun. It gave me a good sense of security. But I do make it to my car and hop in. The van is about to ram my fucking car when I pull out and start driving. I can see the 8 guys from inside run out. In my rearview mirror, they're flipping me off, jumping around. One of them is jumping and distorting himself so that he kind of looks like a Peanuts character dancing, if you know what that looks like. It was weird. But I speed off, and they don't follow, and I feel fucking safe. I get on the main road in town, and I decide to call Seth before the cops. To this day, I have no clue why I do that. My brain was so fucking frazzled. It's a little after midnight at this point. Seth answers, clearly annoyed I woke him up. He says, "What the fuck, man?" And I explain to him everything that happened, just as I've written here. There's silence. More silence. I ask him if he's there, and he speaks. I don't remember word for word, but he said something like this. "Dude, nobody in that mall is going to bother you, so why are you bothering them?" I can't believe he said that at all, so I kind of explained to him how dire the situation was. To be fair, I should have hung up and called the police. There's another pause, and then Seth says, "Look, just remember different people have different processes for dealing with shit." And then he hangs up. To this day, his response really freaks me out. Soon after, I called the cops. I did not hear back from them until several days later. My dad called me and told me they hadn't found anyone, but they had found evidence that the mall was being broken into regularly. So that's cool, I guess. Frank got a hold of me shortly after that, said he was short on money. I would not be getting my $300, which is some bullshit. Could I sue Frank? Oh well. I tried texting some old high school buddies, tried seeing if it would make the paper, but it never did. My mom explained it as small towns wanting to keep stuff swept under the rug, which I understand. The day before I returned to campus, I was checking the scar on my head. It wasn't that bad, but significant enough that I needed some sort of liquid stitches put in. I got my phone out while I was looking at it and thought about calling Seth, asking him what the fuck he meant. Fuck it. I hit the button, and it goes straight to a dial tone.